thank you so much for coming out and joining us. We've got a nice intimate group here, so we'll kind of keep it a little bit tight. I'm going to do a little bit of a presentation just to start, just to make sure we're all on the same page. Some of this might look very familiar to those of you that have been at board meetings, things of that nature. Some of this will be a repeat, but again, just in case, want to make sure we're all starting off on the same foot. I'm Allison Andrews. I am a principal with Wold Architects and Engineers, and our company has been engaged with the district to come in and perform a facilities master planning process. Let Alyssa introduce herself if she wants really quickly.
Yeah, Alyssa Mendelcino, I'm also with Wold Architectural.
Since we are a little bit of a smaller group, if you would you mind if I just grab each of your names? I will do my very best to remember all of them.
Should be able to find.
I'm Larry.
Larry, very nice to meet you, Larry.
Blake.
Blake, very nice to meet you.
Roger.
Roger.
John.
Catherine. All right, well, thank you all so much for being here. So really quickly, our agenda for this evening, like I said, I'm going to do a little bit of a presentation. I promise to keep it as short as possible so we can spend the majority of the time having a discussion. That's why you're all here tonight. We are just going to go over, do a quick overview of some of the highlights from previous facility investments that the district's been making over the past 10 years. And then I'm going to kind of share a little bit about an overview of what this process is, this facilities master planning process. We're about a little over a month into the process, and kind of guiding that initiative is a facilities master planning committee. So they've sort of been a sounding board for my team as we're getting feedback, making sure that we're reaching all the people that we need to be reaching. And as such, one of their charges is really about developing guiding principles for the process. And I'll share a little bit more about what those are and then the point of them as we get into it. And then, like I said, we're going to spend the majority of our time today just having a discussion. That's really what it is. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Well, welcome in.
Hello.
Hello.
Keep going.
Do you have any opening words? We've just kicked off.
Just talk. I'm sure that Alice explained the intent of this process, but the idea is to ensure that we have community engagement, staff engagement, student engagement, board engagement in this facilities master plan for the next 5 to 10 years. And where we speak and we talk about 21st century classrooms, rooms like the one that you see here, and doing it in a way that is fiscally responsible, sustainable, where if we need to pause some projects as a result of whatever the case may be, funding, for example, that we're able to do that. So a lot of the big projects that we have done in the district have been completed, but there's still outstanding items, there's still health life safety, there's a health life safety survey that is happening right now as we speak. And we want to make sure that we address all of those components at the same time so that we spend our resources in the best possible way. So that's what the idea is. If at any time, any year, in the next 5, 10 years, there's no need to do any projects, then we don't do any. So this facilities master plan provides a roadmap to start, stop, continue, and it is really the best way to run a school district. Making sure that you address your facility needs, your health life safety items in a way that is fiscally responsible and sustainable. So with that, Alison will go over the agenda as we have it, so we can have feedback, and then we're doing this again Thursday at 7 p.m. We're doing it tomorrow, I think, with the administration. So it's just a process of a lot of meetings in collecting data, collecting feedback, and doing what's best for the school district. All right, so most of this will probably look more familiar to you. You guys have been around the district even longer than I have. But again, not knowing who all would be in the room tonight, we wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to share and kind of establish, as Dr. Rodriguez just said, there's been a ton of work that's already happened within this district. There's been a lot of investments made to enhance the learning environment, improve programming, look for those opportunities to just enhance the student experience overall. As you see, this is just a map, obviously, of main campus here,
but a list of items of some of the larger investments that have been made over time, including, some exterior fields, interior, your theater addition, an auditorium, the South Commons, and the conversions that we created, the new science wing. Just in the past few years, since Wolves has been here with the district, we've been a part of this work sort of as we've gotten into some of the existing building where we've taken, we're right now sitting in a space that used to be an old science lab. So it's nothing like an old science lab. The district office used to be kind of in the mix in here, and moving that out to create a more intentional study hall space that's at the core of the building. It's more easily accessible for students. Just across the hall, we have, the MTSS suite, which stands for the multi-tiered student support. So that's where students come and they're getting interventions. They're working with interventionists and specialists to get additional resource and work in an area that maybe they're struggling or have questions, just need to devote more time. And then certainly, these study hall environments. We've got, a peace room to allow students an alternative space to go and whether it's to kind of help regulate themselves, just something that feels a little less chaotic maybe than a very busy classroom environment has. So a lot of different pieces that have come kind of into this renovated area. Along the west side of the building here, we've actually started, and this was 2 summers ago, started going through and actually refreshing some of the just old classroom spaces that hadn't been touched in 20, 30, 40 years. Bringing in new technology, getting new furniture, much like what you see in the space here, adding some fresh coats of paint and flooring, things like that that aren't, a huge investment dollars-wise, but really make a great impact when it comes to the learning experience. Kind of along those lines, some of the criteria, this is certainly not all of the criteria that have driven these projects. Some of the key ones that we wanted to highlight, just about modernizing the environment. Education has changed a lot in the last 50 years. It is no longer a sit and get that even my generation was most accustomed to. It's now about interaction and collaboration. It's about more hands-on learning, more just engagement back and forth, peer-to-peer, as well as staff to students. So modernizing those environments to make it more adaptable and flexible to provide that type of education that we're seeing across the nation, across the world. Enhancing safety and supervision. Those are things that have always been at the core of our project, making sure that we are maintaining safe and secure spaces. We've done a lot of work to enhance that throughout the buildings during our projects, whether that's with the materials that we're using, whether it's with providing shades in case there's a lockdown scenario, or just with technology, integration of those types of things as well, cameras or otherwise. Another big one you see in some of these pictures is really about bringing back in that school pride. You've got a great mascot, a strong community base here, and bringing that, fighting ZB into the spaces with small things like the color of the flooring or the ceiling tiles, but you'll see some of that logo and the branding throughout the corridors too. There's a lot of research that has been done about how student engagement and appreciation goes up as they feel like it's a place that is for them, it's a place they want to be. And some of the more sterile environments of older generations that just didn't have all that infused, or it's become dated and hasn't been refreshed with logos and mascots and things like that at the time, just becomes a space that kids recognize and say, well, this wasn't really designed for me. So just keeping those things at mind and looking for those opportunities to create moments to enhance those. So the other ones here, and I certainly don't need to read them all, but one of the other big things I think we've done in these projects, which is carrying into this process, is really about that engagement with the end users. Certainly we never want to provide an end result of something that we never engaged with the folks that are going to use it. So a lot of those conversations with staff, with administrators, looking for that feedback, making sure what we're doing is in alignment with their expectations and what they would look to see. So that kind of filters into our process here where, again, we're looking and striving to get that strong community engagement, that stakeholder engagement from all the different perspectives throughout the district. So with that, overview of the Facilities Master Planning Committee. and the process itself. So we break it into sort of 3 phases. We are currently in phase 1. The biggest takeaway of phase 1 is that we are here to identify the needs. A strong facilities master plan is going to be one that is comprehensive. So we don't want to focus on one subset of information because it means that we're being short-sighted perhaps about another subset. So really it's about thinking about a lot of different topics. This is not an exhaustive list by any means, but thinking about programming, thinking about that safety and security, thinking about how we're integrating technology and enhancing education that way. Taking into account how the community might use a space. We thought about how this space could be something that could be for an event like tonight when we were going through the efforts of designing it. Thinking about how capacity or enrollment might change in the future. We certainly don't have a crystal ball. We can't see too far down the road, but we can be thoughtful about putting in those safety valves of things that allow for flexibility. This road can be divided in half, or it can be opened up to be this large. That creates some flexibility for the future. One of the key things about identifying needs, as I said, is in order to really have that comprehensive view, we have to engage with a broad group of stakeholders. So an event like tonight, I'll share some of the other events we've already done, but we've met with staff and faculty at both buildings. We've met with administrators at both buildings. We're in the process of establishing some student focus groups, making sure we're hearing their voice as well. So we've met with the district's facilities team that handles your HVAC and your electrical, your transportation, meeting with all of those different groups to ensure that really there's no stone unturned. That's the goal here. Identify all the needs, make sure all those voices have been heard, so that when we move into that second phase, which is where we actually start thinking about developing options, we have all of the pieces in front of us. The goal of this second phase is really about coming to consensus on those needs and being able to prioritize them. We know we can't do everything. We know we can't do everything day 1, year 1. This is a process that is going to establish a long-range plan, like Dr. Rodriguez said. It may not, it might be that we aren't able to accomplish everything that folks have mentioned in these meetings, but we might find areas to make improvements in those. And it might be something that happens in the first year, it might be something that happens in 10 years. But that's going to come down to having that consensus on those needs, prioritizing them before we move forward and try and develop a solution. Solutions are something that divide us. We always, whether it's because of my bias or my lens of what's important, my solution might be very different than your initial solution. But as a group, as we come to that have that common ground and common consensus, then we can start to move in a similar direction all the way around. The final phase then is going to be a recommendation to the board. But what's going to go into that? Certainly, as we're creating a plan, we need to then think about how would it ultimately get implemented. This is a building that is fully occupied, it's in full use. We have very limited time to do improvements during summer months. We're not necessarily considering any large additions or something like that where it can be built during the year while school is in session. We're going to have to be very delicate and thoughtful as to how we can improve a space when students are not in it. That's when we leverage our summer months the most, with some flexibility, which you'll see in the coming summer where we're going to finish the improvements at the libraries and those spaces. And those are likely to linger into the school year, but we've been working with the staff of how we can be flexible so that we can still start school on time and that programming can still take place while those renovations are being completed. Additionally, we need to think about how it ultimately gets funded. The main charge here is that we need a plan that's going to respect the financial position of the district and is going to be fiscally responsible. And so taking those factors into account as we develop that plan. Again, not everything can happen at once because it's the same way when we're improving our house, we kind of have to budget and say, okay, here's what we've got to spend today, and now I'm going to plan for 5 years to do this other, I've got to replace the shingles on my roof, and that's coming up, and I got to budget and plan for it so that it doesn't, put me in a bad situation financially. Same thing happens here with the school district. This image here on the left, this is just sort of a graphic representation of what I just described. We're up kind of in this top section here, gathering data from all the broad stakeholders, We're working on that process basically through the end of the calendar year. Come January, as we move into the new year, we'll move into that phase 2. We'll start to prioritize and come to consensus on all of those needs and begin that option development phase. The goal is then to be presenting to the Board of Education in March. And so there'll be a lot of, this will be a lot of, back and forth. It'll be starting out a option and then kind of evaluate it. Is it aligning with our goals and our strategies? Is it respecting all of the needs that we've heard and aligning with that prioritization that we've developed? I wanted to, I'll just read this kind of because this is the outcome that we've been discussing with the district, sort of as an overarching goal for this process. And that is to have a comprehensive long-range facilities master plan to invest in facilities that accommodate enrollment, instruction, programs, and supports over the next 10 years and reflects efficient and sustainable fiscal practices. So that is sort of the charge and the outcome statements for this process, and that's something that when we're meeting, we're making sure that that's a part of our conversation. That is our charge here. As I mentioned, we have been meeting, and we've been during this process for the last month. Part of the work that's already been completed is our Facilities Master Planning Committee is working to define some guiding principles. These are really important because it is to reflect, again, that mission, that charge, but it's also something that as we move forward in the process, this becomes our evaluation process. So as we develop options, we're going to evaluate those options against these guiding principles to make sure we're still on track. If we start to find that an option for the facilities master plan is veering off path and doesn't align with this, that gives us pause, forces us to take and reevaluate and say, where are we taking this step? So these are still in their draft form, they're being finalized. We'll be presenting them formally once they are completed as a part of the overall findings. But we've got 4 points here. The first is to provide a safe and supportive learning environment that promotes a positive climate and culture for all students and staff. Invest in district facilities to empower creativity, adaptability, innovation, foster equity, and support the pursuit of the highest standards of excellence for all learners. Provide future-forward learning environments that incorporate the key elements of 21st century learning design, include meaningful hands-on learning opportunities, and support personalized learning for all students. And finally, district buildings and learning environments will be a place of pride and opportunity for all students and staff.
What don't we have right now? Which of those don't we have right now?
I don't think it's a matter of, these are not, guiding principles are not typically something that is a pass or fail. It's more of a grade. This is a, it's not to say that the environments don't reflect these now, but these are the areas that our charges to look for opportunities to continue to enhance these ideas. Last thing, and then I promise I will sit down and stop talking and let you all start talking. I did just want to share a lot of the work that has already been ongoing, as I mentioned, that stakeholder engagement. I hit on, I think, of most of these earlier on already, but we've met with, meeting with administrators, the facilities team, transportation. We've had the staff meeting over at the ZBTHS. We've had multiple faculty, 2 faculty meetings here. This is our first community town hall. We'll have a second one later this week. And then we are, as a follow-up to these meetings, sending out electronic surveys. So in the off chance that someone, whether they just weren't able to attend any of these meetings that have happened on their own time, there's an opportunity to still make sure they're sharing their feedback. The same will be done for these community town halls. There will be an electronic version where you can submit feedback, thoughts, and comments as well. And then, as I mentioned, we are looking at establishing some focus groups as well to ensure that they're being heard. So with that, we are going to move into our discussion. To guide this discussion, there's a sheet on the table if you want to kind of follow along. But we're going to work through spend about 10 minutes on each question. We're going to work through these 5 questions and just have a discussion about these different topics. Like I said, they're on the sheet in front of you, so you can reference those as we go through. what we had shared when we were going through this with our staff and faculty groups was really around kind of three emerging themes, just if it helps setting the mindset. We're thinking about facility challenges. With our facilities team, maybe that is where we have groups that are at the end of their life and they're going to need to be replaced or repaired. With our faculty, it's how are the learning environments creating challenges, looking at student engagement opportunities, as well as, again, that creating a future-focused environment. Are we able to provide all the programs and opportunities for students that will make them the most successful when they ultimately leave the district and enter the community in their adult life? So those are just sort of some high levels to be thinking about. I'm going to come over and actually kind of take notes on the large chart paper there. I will do my best to keep the microphone.
It's okay if you don't.
So how is it? Is everyone ready? You're all pumped? Good. All right. So the first question, and I did this with our faculty groups as well. I think a lot of times we walk into this process and we immediately start thinking about things we want to change. We think a little bit about the negative, but a lot of times there's so many great things to actually celebrate. There's a lot of great work that's been done. There's a lot of great opportunities that are already available for our students, for our staff. And we certainly don't want to lose any of that. And so this first question is really about that. What is it that we like about our current school? What is it that we appreciate and enjoy about the facilities that we wouldn't want to see change, something we wouldn't want to lose in this process? Because I think that's almost just as important as when we're looking at those opportunities to make changes. So is there anything that comes to mind right off the bat?
It appears to me that we're pretty complete around here, very honestly. I don't know what we're lacking.
And can you just, complete to you versus complete, what do you mean when you think about complete?
We've got new athletic facilities, we've got new buildings, we've got new administration, we've got new parking lots, we've got new school buses coming, we've got new libraries, we've got new
natatoriums, we've
got a lot of stuff that's been built in the last few years, and I'm not sure what else we might need.
The physicality of this place is unreal when you look at other schools, and I think about old Waukegan School, when you go down there and you see how old and decrepit that is, then you come up here and it's just gorgeous.
It is.
It's just unbelievable.
I think that contributes to our retention rate.
For
For teachers.
teachers,
Yeah, you want teachers,
tell you what we really retain is a little extra money. And so much of these money leaving
I'm
the
willing to
education
do
fund, leaving the education fund for the building fund, let's give some of it to the teachers.
I am perfectly willing. We just
Then you'll
settled the
really
contract.
Okay.
We just, and it was a good contract. I think it's probably
It took a long time
online.
to get there.
It did. It did. But do you recall that for 3 months you guys sat there and yelled at us that we weren't paying parapros enough?
Yeah, but we yelled in a nice way.
They got paid. They went from $14 an hour to almost $19 an hour.
What's my law? Just about.
And you know what? They deserved better. I think they deserved every dollar we gave them.
I don't discount that at all either.
I know that's something too that we've been able to focus on more now that these big spaces, these big programmatic areas, going back and thinking about the professional environments just as much as the student environment. And how are we providing the right opportunities for whether it's professional growth or just a work environment for staff, our faculty and staff. And those are things we're looking at already in, the projects that are going to be coming in this next summer, as well as those future endeavors. So I think that's along the lines of those when we're thinking about facilities, it's not only, the compensation piece, but also the environment that those individuals work in.
I think it's, our boardroom where we meet is also professional development. And it's busy every single day. And it's made a difference in faculty just being able to get together and have ad hoc meetings and talk and have professional development there. you know, professional development to me is just as important as wages. You gotta keep your mind going.
A lot of people disagree with that.
I'm sure there are. But I mean, I'm not sure what the facilities need, but I think that I'd like to see all of our classrooms brought into the 21st century. Because they're gonna walk out of these schools and see it, stuff like this where they work. They might as well see it here.
You would think that would be, I would prioritize that first, to get those classrooms up to speed first before putting all this money into administration and parking lots and that. I think we should take care of the students first and really get them into the 21st century. Actually, I know some of these classrooms and some of the hallways and bathrooms and that are really kind of, I mean, they're really old. That should have been done first.
Okay. Okay, stress that. This is what you'd like to see. That's what these meetings are for.
Well, that should have been done already.
Okay, but you're gonna put that at the top. This is your top priority. You wanna see the students taken care of.
But that was done. In order for us to have this is where my office used to be.
I know where your office used to be.
Yes, but so you do know that in order for us to have the historic hall, where we used to use several classrooms, now we have this with flexible seating, and we have administration in one corner, and all of those offices were used for student spaces. So we have added over, I don't know how many, easily over 70,000 square footage of instructional space.
But we
Most
have
of it
any
has
more
been instructional.
students. There's no more students than there were 30 years ago. And we're adding 75,000 square feet, and where do we get the students to fill that?
Yes, because
That there were 1,600 students.
All right, so we.
Okay, that's not fair.
Wait a minute, when I went here, there was 30 years. And we're all gonna be,
When Roger
When I graduated in
graduated,
71, we had 2,200 students.
yeah.
71.
So it's ebbed and flows, but it's been anywhere from 2,500 down to 1,600.
For very few years it wasn't like that.
what can we expect from population growth? We've got climate change. We've got the perimeter of this country's
You've
on
been looking,
fire.
bringing people to this community, right?
We are sitting on a source of water. We're sitting on a huge source of water. We are going to see more people coming to this community.
That's all we're gonna do.
You're gonna be so busy. You're gonna be selling houses like hotcakes.
I want to add two things just to the conversation. The first thing is around kind of hallways and boiler rooms. We have heard a resounding, that is a number one priority in every group that we've met with, is that going back, like, obviously there are restrooms, but it's going into all of these existing restrooms and enhancing them, creating a better space. I've got echo in the back. And that has been a top priority.
Part of this too?
That has been a top priority from every group, staff, faculty, administration that we've heard. So I appreciate you saying that, because I think that is at the forefront of it.
and they're very small compared to other high schools outside. But it was like that in the past. So see, it needs to stay like that, that's your choice. But they're very small compared to schools outside.
I heard incidents where during the lunch periods, anybody's on the east side is blocked off by the no passing through the lunch areas, and they go all the way around and back. It's emergency, or they're going to be late for class. Excuse me. And I guess that's always been a problem even when I taught, and it's continued to become a bigger problem because there's more moved over on the east side than on the west side. So, and I was thinking, what about the old locker room, but now it's part of a foyer with the entrance over in the corner. This used to be the varsity locker room is now just a big empty space. So, the plumbing's there, and I was wondering, we always seem to find some mistakes that was left behind, the builders, saying, we can't do that. We're not supposed to have a rounded table in Todd's class. It's kind of dangerous. It's supposed to be insulated, that kind of thing. And as far as students, we used to teach Cisco and A+. A+ isn't needed anymore because now you just throw away the computer. But at Cisco, and Wi-Fi, there was a future then, we got rid of it because we didn't get any money for it. And I think we need more hands-on, high-tech stuff. We really need to think 10 years in the future, because it can be tough. And those 10 years coming up a lot faster than it did in the past as well.
Where you're just getting older, John, and it is flying by faster.
Yeah, I guess there's a little bit of both there. But, I put together a class called Electric Power, and it sounds like I'm having myself because we've got all these electric cars now. And I imagine pretty soon we'll have plug-ins out there for faculty to buy electricity, right? We're gonna sell it to them, unless it comes up in the contracts. But those things can happen, and as far as getting new buses, well, who knows what gets plugged in, what doesn't.
Well, and that's a part of, that's something that's obviously been discussed with the board, but there's still an effort to provide the infrastructure for that. So that's something that's kind of already on the horizon that we're discussing, but I know that's commentary that we've heard from our transportation, the team of the transportation department of, wanting to make sure that infrastructure is done and they're taken care of as well, because, it's, again, a comprehensive plan. It's not just, it's certainly about the students in the space. It's certainly about the professionals in the space, but it's also about making sure that the building itself is warm, safe, and dry. It's also meaning we've got to make sure we can get students to and from the building. It's all of those things that filter into this, so we're making sure we're hearing from those groups, and I'm hearing a lot of those different sentiments here today already.
How long are passing periods now?
5
minutes, so still 5. Because honestly, like, getting from one end of this building to the other in 5 minutes, if you're like a freshman, is a near impossibility, right? And so, John brought up a good point that you can't pass through the old, what used to be the old cafeteria, now the vocals or whatever. But you really can't pass it during.
Yeah, you gotta take the long one.
You gotta go all the way, I mean, like, literally, you go all the way around, you either come down this way and come back up, or you go all the way down to that and then come back up. So I do think that if you're, or you could go, can you go to the mezzanine still? I don't know.
Yeah, right. So there were ways to cut through, but it's not.
I can tell you right now, I have a study hall in here, and once the kids leave, my room is over on the top floor of the new CTE wing. I have 1 minute left from here to there.
It's like impossible.
I have students that are late all the time.
It's like impossible. I have my 4th is ROTC and my 5th is English. I gotta walk across the entirety of the building, and I'm rarely on time in my English class. It is just so far.
With ROTC and the CTE wing, you've got more things going on in the theater, the South Commons being more utilized. These are all great spaces. I love these spaces. They're amazing spaces.
They're just so far away from
But you have one hallway that services all of that. And the word that always comes to my mind in other master planning committees I've been on is center of gravity. Where's the center of gravity for your building? When you start moving things and you start putting things in new places, the center of gravity shifts completely. And right now, as a former student, community member, and a teacher here, I feel the center of gravity shift moving towards that end of the building, and it's tough. It's tough to get kids in and out of there on time.
I think that's the value too, and part of the charge of a facilities master planning facility. The goal is that we're not doing a project this year, we're thinking about the project this year, and next year we're thinking about a different project, and it's mapping, as you mentioned earlier, it's creating a roadmap, having a roadmap so that way we're thinking about, hey, what does this shift really do to the big picture? How does the big picture, at the end of all of it, the big picture should make sense? And there's going to be, these shifting and some different things that happen along the way. There's going to be some moments where, again, we haven't addressed all of it, but the goal is to get to the end product and have that complete big picture that addresses all those different things. I want to shift it. I think we've kind of already started to work into these two things. So I kind of want to take on, read off these next two questions and see if there's any specific feedback related to them. The first is, how do you see graduating students contributing to the community? And that second one, I think, ties into that one, which is how can the built environment contribute to student and staff success? Obviously, we're not here to talk about curriculum or anything like that. We're here to talk about the facilities and how the facilities can enhance. But ultimately, the students, once they leave here, they're going out into the community, and we want them to go out and be a positive influence, a positive impact. And we've got an opportunity here as a school district to make an impact on their lives so that they go out and they do great things, whatever that looks like for them. So I'm curious, just we're all coming from different backgrounds, different experiences. To each of you, where does the built environment, the school itself, really support that as a charge, impacting students and what they ultimately do.
Being good citizens, contributing to
And
society.
stating the obvious is sometimes a great thing, yes.
Good citizens, and, go on. We always strive for that.
One offered to be employable. And to find a job that they love. Something that feeds their passions.
Why not?
Well, see,
Yeah.
Roger loves Greece.
I love Greece. So play the kitchen.
What types of opportunities do we have here? And again, it might be something that we're already doing. It might be things that we already have. But what types of things can we do here as a facility to support that? You know, you've already added programming and created space to support that programming. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, we have the Career and Technical Center for those that are inclined for the trades. Or to get certified, to be mechanics, to work with computers. So they're prepared to step into further training.
And that's your on-site at
Yes.
Zion right now.
We do, and the advanced classes, we have a bus that takes them out to CLC.
Well, I knew that, Kathy, but they've been going out there for a long time, so we
They
hired
have.
some people from out there.
There's some OSHA certifications they've been pulling down. Just something I thought of, and then I left. And somebody took my idea and kept it going. I always thought you had to be OSHA certified, and certified in it's not that way. They changed it since when I came up, and I thought it'd be a good idea.
You know that crummy old building on the East Campus? They used to sell tickets when we were kids?
Mhm.
It was taken down, and our students built a new one.
Many of the houses around the old campus were built by students. Give them trades, give them a tool that.
Well, they're doing that again.
Get it built full of my wrestling coach and Titan coach.
That's what they built. Here's the houses around there.
I remember that. I'd like to see us get back to that. if we
Yeah,
could.
well, too.
That was pretty cool when they were doing that. With Leroy Cliff and Coach Clint with them a little bit for Jim O'Toole.
Building houses, practical trade experience.
And right now, we need some, Larry needs some houses built. Yeah, he's running out of inventory.
Are you gonna serve up some internships for mechanics?
Absolutely. We've already done that.
So community partnerships, sounds
I
like.
don't know this stuff.
Strengthening those community partnerships where there's
Yes.
that back and
Yes.
forth. This sounds like there's always something here that's developed, continue to enhance, but maybe there's other opportunities in whether maybe it's other career paths or things like that that could further drive this. Is that fair?
How do you do that?
How do we do it?
Strengthen community partnerships. There's two of us here tonight in the community.
How is this, the current program that you were describing, how did that get off the ground? Was it kind of a grassroots, someone, there was an idea that was floated and?
That was after I graduated. How did that happen? I do remember that our students built houses.
We built, the first one was at Sober House out across the street from what is now the dump out there. That was a tragedy. Sober was not ready yet. And then they built,
Lesson learned.
like four, right over by the old Pierce campus. The one's directly across the street, the one's on 23rd Street, other than,
How would students connect with you?
pardon,
How would students connect with you in your job?
they don't.
How could they? Can you think of any way you'd like to engage with students?
Certainly, there's always ways to engage, they could come around and understand what it's all about and how it works, and I'd be happy to do that. Mentor floor type thing, I'd be happy to do that. I've offered that to other people too. Nobody's taken me up on it yet. There's a lot of people that would do that. In fact, I had an occasion to talk to some of the people in the building trades, and each of them said that they would be willing to come over and help out with some of that stuff and offer their expertise and so forth if they were started building houses. So that's one thing that we could get involved in, but some people would be supportive of that. And going back to what you said as far as the area popping and doing crazy things, you know, I sell real estate every day, and I don't share it that way at all. You know, the things I'm hearing about, my taxes are too damn high. I'm leaving here. I want to get out of here as soon as possible. I'm going to Wisconsin. We're not going for the weather, folks. And our taxes are so, and we're talking about spending a ton more money right here is all we're talking about.
Well, actually, we're getting input so that we can get a handle on what we should spend, and you have a voice in this.
Well, I hope so. We're
That's
trying
why
to
you're
have a
here.
voice, and so far it hasn't worked.
Well, I want you to have a voice.
All we're talking about is spending more money.
Larry, when I look at the plaque up there, of the construction in the front, it says Larry Steven, President. So it was needed back then, it's needed now.
Well, we did a
It
lot of
does say
work,
that.
and
Yes.
you know, right now, we can't afford it. There are people in this community that can't afford what we're talking about here. You know, everybody in this room can probably afford it. Everybody in here can probably afford the things you're talking about. But there are 50,000 people here that we support, and I bet you 10 to 15,000 can't afford their doggone taxes right now, and we're talking about spending more money. And that's all we're doing here is talking about spending more money.
And ways to control that expense. And ways
We're
to
spending more
evaluate
money.
whether
How
it's
can we
needed.
control we're spending more? We're spending more each and every year, and that number is going up each and every year. It
You know
continues
what I
to
learned
snowball.
when I was in business, was you have to do your maintenance. And one of the big things that I love about being on this board is looking at the extensive maintenance that we do. That we circle around the roofs every year and look for places that need to be. We have a schedule for our HVAC.
We gotta
paint,
do something
we
for our
clean.
citizens that can't afford it. We can't afford to walk around here and spend more money.
We can't afford to let it fall to pieces either. Do you want it to be like Beach Park where they had to have a $26 million referendum to repair cracks in the wall and
Our
wind
schools
going
have not
through
been in
windows?
bad shape for 50 years.
We're
They have
not-
really not fallen apart. There's nothing, there's no bricks falling off, there's nobody suffering from it. You know, maybe the routes aren't there, maybe they have to wait a bit to go to the bathroom. Maybe the administrators don't need 7 bathrooms in that area over there. You know,
Yeah, maybe we need to have a town hall to talk about taxes, and you can be a guest speaker.
well, you know.
But
How
Because-
would we bring some of our people in here that we're talking about that can't afford this, Kathy, that come to my shop and they say, Roger, you know, they want to complain to the city of Zion that their taxes are too high. And they don't understand that most of the levy is the schools that are really big.
And it's not only Zion Bend, it's the entire school system. We all feel like, you know, we need more stuff. Let's just add more
we
taxes
need
to it. Let's
a
do
different way
more.
to fund schools.
Pardon?
We need a different way to fund schools.
Oh, that's
We've
why
always needed
That's-
that.
yes, we
We've
have.
always
So-
needed that.
And we should push our legislators for that. But this, we have actually, I pulled the tax extensions for the last 7 years. And our tax extension does not go up, 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 up. It's actually oscillated, and we've kind of flatlined it at about 30 million. Go down to 28, 29, 30, go back down. And those are, so we are flatlining since 2017 through 2024. We have flatlined our tax extensions. So to sit here and tell us that we keep spending money and we're increasing taxes, we
The
are
board up
not.
here, that's what we're talking about doing.
We're talking about how to spend money and where we can
What's the
conserve money
difference?
if
We're
we
spending
can.
money no matter how we spend it. We spend it from this pocket or this pocket, we're still spending
Do you
it.
want us not to spend anything?
I would like that.
And then what? Follow that line of thought, and then what?
I mean, it's not feasible to not spend money, right? Like, that's not realistic. We're gonna spend.
Well, obviously,
Yeah, of
that was a
course, right.
stupid question to
Well,
ask. It was a
but
stupid way to
you
ask.
have to, okay, so I think we've got sidetracked, we're talking about taxes. And as I said, then we want to pay
But
taxes.
we're
I
talking
want
about
to pay taxes.
spending money.
Correct. This is about spending the money smartly. So if in theory we don't want to add these things, then that's what you say, right? And that's okay. But there probably are needs that need to be addressed. There's things that are gonna happen that we're gonna have to have, right? Like that's gonna happen. So I think the whole idea for the facilities master plan is like, let's have a roadmap to get there. And if you don't think we need anything else, that's okay. I honestly think the school's fantastic. It's way better than I went here. And that's okay. I want better for a newer generation. That's great. But then we need to, as a community, come together and just say, okay, we've done a lot of the building, but what sorts of minor tweaks can be done that can benefit students? Where are the pain points? Where are we having issues? If that means that, like, we push the administration, I think we need 6-minute passing periods. And if that means, because realistically, if a kid's coming in late, you're losing on a minute of instruction. But this is what this type of stuff's for, right? Like, and I agree. We have the highest taxes in the state per value, and it's terrible. And I talked about it at length. And I came up and I did my spiel about how we're pushing people out of their homes because the community is, right? But this is a chance for us to.
I hear it every day, every day.
Listen.
Taxes are too high, the students aren't performing.
Well, but businesses are also bypassing us and going over the state line, and we've lost some really good shots. And one that keeps coming to mind, and I wish and I do some work for them out there, was that Niagara Water Company. We gave them the best pitch, but their people in charge said, no, the taxes are too high. We're not coming to Illinois, we're going over the state line, but just go over the state line and look at the cranes and cement trucks and all the construction that's going on up there. It's phenomenal. I wish we had some of that.
It's taxes.
We've got one little building out there. We got FedEx out there at our Trumpet Park. We can't fill it up with anything because they're not going to come here. We've got to do something that's going to make it, people want to come and stay in Illinois.
We've agreed on some variances for Trumpet Park to get businesses in, and there may be, I don't know, a facility that parks overflow.
I'm just saying, we don't have any. When's the last time you saw a cement truck around here, around these parts? We used to have them all the time.
Other than school.
But I'm just saying, this is the only game in town right now, is this school is the only game going on, that's property.
And yet, we've gone from 60% renters in this community to 60% homeowners. So something is slowly changing, and that's good. And I see when I bike through the neighborhoods, I see that there are more homes doing home repairs, upgrading their homes. Or they don't want to move.
So I do want to go back to something, Blake, that you were saying, and just as a reminder to our group too, because again, today is the main purpose of this part of this process is really just to list and understand the needs, the different things that different stakeholder groups are thinking about. Now, we are going to have a second set of community meetings that are going to happen in February. At that point, we're going to have collected all of those needs, and we're going to be thinking about that option development, and we're going to be in the process of those conversations about what does that plan look like? You know, is it 1%? You know, how much work is getting done, and how does that work out over a long-range plan? So today's purpose, and I just want to make sure that we have the opportunity to achieve that, is that if there is something, if dollars were going to be spent, where does this group feel like they should be spent?
I have another question. Is this part of that 25 million that was approved a few months ago, or is this something big? It was facilities master plan approved a couple months ago in one of the meetings, so it was $25 million.
Not in this district.
Certainly was. I sat there and listened to you.
We haven't approved it, so this is, we've approved creating a facilities master plan, and this is the process
So
we're going
$25
through.
million was approved over the next 5 to 10 years, I believe it was.
If you find a more item, you let me know, but there's nothing of that nature approved in this school district. what was approved was the process of creating a facilities master plan to bring it to the board before, in the month of March 2025. That's it. No money attached to it, nothing. So that's what we're doing.
That's what we're engaged in.
Yeah. That's it.
Sorry. My question is, what do we have for facility for like additive manufacturing and CNC machines and all those types of things? Because I'm thinking like, one of the barriers for going out like the Texas campus is it's just an investment, like for a student who wants to get back later sometimes, because you're taking the bus, you're taken away from all your friends. So anything that we can onshore into the school that's reasonably priced, and if there's enrollment numbers that dictate it, I don't see why that wouldn't be something we would look at, right? Because you'd rather, not, and I love CLC, I think it's fantastic, it's a great facility for our community, but again, if you can do it here, why is it not there if we have the numbers for it? I don't know what the enrollment looks like, I don't have access to that, right? But you guys do.
Enrollment at the CLC?
Well, for like specific classes, right? Like say we have like 20, if we have 20 students that are going around taking a certain class, like, and that's year after year after year, it's like, okay, well, we should.
I can tell you right now, just working on that side of in the career side of the building, we could use another full-time teacher with the number of students that are, I mean, we could have a full-time teacher that's doing nothing but teaching the wood shop, full-time teacher teaching nothing but power mechanics. I mean, we're full, we're busy. We offer a lot of stuff here at the campus already.
But that would be where I would think we would be expanding. It's not when we have.
So expanding new CPE opportunities.
Correct. Well, yeah.
Well, I think what I'm
What
hearing
was
too
the
is,
equipment cost?
I don't know, and
And you have to balance the equipment cost. Is it so expensive that it's more economical to send students out to
Of course.
CLC?
yeah, and that's.
But if it's not, then what you're saying makes sense. You know, you have to weigh all that.
Well, and there's certain levels of cost you would take on it. It's just, because not everything's zero sum, right? Right, like you may pay more, but there's benefits to having here. So whatever. I'm just throwing spitballing ideas. Like we have math, we have science, we have brand new science classrooms, which I'm trusting you are top of the line, right? Because otherwise, why would we have done it? We've got English.
And your science performance scores jump.
They jump year over
They
year,
jumped.
and so let's.
And the classrooms that we had were inadequate. It was small, it was in like in a triangle.
I did biology
Two
right
classes
there.
there, right?
I cut open a pig back there, like, I
They were
believe me,
inadequate.
I'm well aware of what these classrooms were like
So
20 years
So
ago.
that's an example, another example of why keep that when you have an opportunity to do it better. And the labs were not functional, equipment was not functional in many ways.
so I think what I'm hearing is, just to kind of summarize, if you don't mind. Looking at investing in programs where there's a demand and focusing efforts there. Don't necessarily invest in something that, you know, that is perhaps dwindling unless there's a demand for a resurgence if maybe the facility is what's limiting it.
Yeah, and I think you would need some level of like flexibility within your spaces where like, okay, no one's taking the class anymore, right? Like,
And we do that.
Right, for sure, but I think that you'd have that in mind.
You'll see that on the curriculum committee. They evaluate classes and drop the ones that don't have enrollment.
Well, for example, in the 2025 improvements, where we're going to be focusing on the music and art classrooms, there had been this increase in demand in programming, and there was an additional teacher added, and so the art program was working out of 2 classrooms, but that program was growing and growing and growing, so there will now be 3 classrooms to support that increased demand for those classes. So something like that.
So those things are happening, and that's the core business, like music and art that's coming up, and increasing more music because of the demand. And we should do the same in CPE, of course. But there was an option. The option was to do nothing, and you can't operate like that. If the opportunity is there to offer students more music, why not? Why not?
And
Because
they're
we didn't have it before? No, that's not acceptable.
They're finding more and more that music is needed, that students really need it in their lives. That music and math correlate.
Yep.
Why am I good at one and not the other then?
Pardon?
I said, why am I good at one and not the other?
Well, I'm the same way, so.
I'm an accountant, but I can't, I got no rhythm to stay on.
I'm really cheap, and I'm, you know, I'm not a
I thought you were going to come through that too.
Yeah. The reason I was running.
So looking at that question for us, I want to circle back because I want to make sure everyone has a chance to share any insights. Is if the district were going to be making investments into the facilities, what are, we hit on a couple, I think, at the beginning of our, where we mentioned restrooms and hallways. Where are the areas of the facilities that you would prioritize investing in? And again, it can be roofs, it can be transportation, it could be CTE programming, it could be toilets and restrooms, it could be anything. But where would you prioritize that investment being made?
I'd like it to be career flexible.
Career flexible.
Unless kids changed a lot since I left, I really think we should have more remedial work. It always trained me that in AP class you get out of PE, but if you needed help in reading, you still had to take your PE class, which I thought was backwards. And we've had some great athletes here. We didn't have that skill, the basic skills, as well as some. And they could land a scholarship because of their athletic ability, but have a hard time there because of their reading ability. Yet we still require them to take PE instead of remedial reading, writing, or whatever it is. Always thought that was backwards. And I know that's a state law, and if I ever got a chance to go to Springfield and talk, I would think, don't make it mandatory for high schools. Their last chance, don't send them outside playing baseball when they should be inside reading about baseball. Well, we used to have a really good reading teacher here, and I don't even know if we have one anymore.
We have our specialists that are working in our intervention.
Yeah, we do. We have that. Like, I know the Nikisha Usher, she works with student support, like one-on-one intervention and stuff like that. She does the reading with that, like, I go in her office
That's her only
sometimes.
job, though, right?
Yeah, like doing like.
We have people whose job is
For a while, it was,
intervention stuff.
Yeah, they have a lot
it was
more
like
support now.
an extra.
And the whole area.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of what this space is about.
Intervention.
Yeah,
But it's like PE.
Yeah.
I mean, some people need that.
I know.
Yeah.
Get the fat kid out there, but the guy who can run 40 in the 4.4 does not need the PE.
I would say, getting back to your question, in making sure that there's something in the plan that allows to keep the facilities current, and not just with, roofing and, new paint and stuff, that's all important, but it's one thing to build a space and, hey, look, we got this great shiny new thing, and then we let it kind of fall apart after years. But we built a new theater 4 years ago. Well, when do we start to upgrade some things in there? We got a nice LED lighting system. Maybe we change some things in there, or in the wood shop. So there's some new tools that can start to be brought into these spaces. Or we just having as part of the plan things that would allow our students to stay competitive. Just because you are raised in the Zion Benton community doesn't mean that you should have less opportunities than students that are raised in other communities. They should have the same exact opportunities. And that's for me what a lot of this comes down to.
I think a lot of what you're talking about too is, again, it's not necessarily having to make some big overarching sweeping move. It's not doing some huge addition on some side of the building. It's going into current space and just ensuring that it keeps up with the times, it keeps up with the program needs, and always kind of having that future forward look of, so that, as you said, I think like the way you said it, it maintains that competitive edge then for students that are, hey, I took this class, I left this program from a ZB, and that means something.
Like sometimes it's the things that you can't see, right? So for me, I'm always thinking about the infrastructure. Our new spaces, great, they're modern, it's exactly where it needed to be, but some of our old spaces, the cabling is going to be obsolete soon. So we have to peel that back and start to improve some of those things. And those aren't the glamorous fixes. You don't get to see anything from that, but it's important.
Well, who benefits the most from that then?
Kids.
Just kids.
Kids,
Then
right.
instead of building that performing arts center that I know Kathy likes that so much, why didn't we just take some of that money and do all of that first? And so when the kids are graduating, the juniors and seniors, then they would have had the best of the best.
Oh, come
That's one
see
of
our,
those things, that's one of the things that you can't, like the cabling, for example. You can't just do it all and then it's all done and then you don't have to worry about it. You gotta kind of keep doing a piece
Well, you
here.
gotta
and
maintain it all.
Maintain it, you gotta do pieces here and there and kind of keep cycling through to be able to keep up with it.
come see the work we do in the theater. Come to our shows. Come to our plays. We got a show on Friday, 7 o'clock. Buy your tickets because they're almost sold out. But I mean, you should see the work that our kids do in that theater, and I would put them against any school in the county. They are amazing. That theater has been a godsend to this school. What the opportunities it has allowed hundreds of kids to do instead of band kids having to play in the gym, choir having to set up in the south cafeteria, having to bus all of our kids over to an outdated, ad hoc theater over at the other campus. This facility has, man, if it's about the kids, I run all the audio for all the shows. I am in there all the time, and I'm telling you, what that facility has meant to the kids that use it is just gold.
And there's a lot of kids participating in it, like right now, because I do the sound for the theater too. There's 42 kids who are in the cast for the show. Like, it's more than the mics that we have right now, actually. Because it's just, than doing a participating theater, and there's always more and more that I want to do, and I feel good using the equipment that we have there, because it's, like, realistic to what I see when I go to other spaces. It's, like, kind of career ready for me as a student.
She runs the sound.
Are these things videotaped and put on the YouTube and stuff?
What we
for the public to
can,
see?
yeah, what we can. Obviously, there's some licensing things with the shows.
Because I've never seen any of them.
But no, whenever band concerts, choir concerts are always streamed to our YouTube and Facebook account of whether it's the band or choir, but it's always on our YouTube channel.
Well, that's one thing that Steve and I have talked about, for one thing, is regarding the AV and the tech, getting these kids out in the community, giving them cameras, having them orchestrate doing community-based videos, quality of life type things and so on. Whoops. And they can take those skills and go to work for Channel 2. And because you got a good mentor right here.
I want to piggyback off of Sherry's comments as well. As sort of a value of the process is, you could spend money, go through, you could update all the infrastructure. It'd be very challenging. It's probably not the most effective way to do it. But then if you want to come back and you want to layer something else in, now you're going back into a space you've already touched and you're re-spending dollars. The goal of creating this long-range plan is to say, okay, we know we want to update infrastructure. We know there's still areas of this building that we want to add fire suppression to. We know that there's these different improvements that are looking to be made. If we're going to go into a space, the goal is to go in and do it once. It's going to be your most cost-effective approach to making an investment in that space, is to kind of have that comprehensive vision of all the things you want to do and do it once.
We know that there's health and safety that is required
As well as
command.
that.
So we do it once, we do it twice.
So that is part of the charge of this process is, again, to layer in all of those pieces so that we are looking at each individual space comprehensively as a means of having the most cost-effective solution. Because as you're saying, some of these things you're required by the state to do. There's an ongoing health life safety survey that's being done. Things that are identified on that survey are required to be addressed by the district. And that's a state mandate that's done every 10 years.
We've talked a lot about some of the CTE programs. The state has a lot of things with CTE things that have to be done as well, and certain programs and certain pathways that have to be created. So there are mandates from the state for a lot of that stuff too.
I mean, all of those classrooms are new. And see, I think some of the times in our cities that are be quiet, we talk about administration, that's only a small part of all of the construction that has taken place. From the natatorium to the PAC to CTE classrooms, science labs, all of these classrooms here. So we confuse it and we want to use it as a political move. No, it's not. I mean, the majority of the funding has been spent on instructional spaces for our students. And of course, we have to move administration to a side of the building to free up space so that we can have something like this. So.
What I am excited about and what I'm happy about as a community member especially is I don't remember some of this kind of planning happening before. And I can tell you, even in some of the spaces, there were things in the theater that weren't quite finished. There's some things that were in the CTE space that weren't quite finished, or weren't quite finished the way that the people that use it every day were happy about. And we're still dealing with some of those issues even a few years later. So my hope is through some of this planning that some of those things don't get left out. That we got to remember, we got to run electric to the side lights in the theater. We got to remember that we got to do soundproofing in the wood shop. There's little things like that weren't done well with some of those first projects. That this master planning, I hope, covers some of that kind of thing.
That also could have been what was crossed out when they wanted to keep it in their budget too. I heard a rumor that the industrial wing that is no longer an industrial wing was supposed to go all the way out to the street when they built this building, and they had to cut it in half because they didn't know the budget. Did you hear about that?
I didn't know about that.
That was before he even did a shovel full.
I was here when we closed Pierce campus. That was a big thing. We had 30, 40 people in the community doing that, community people. So we did get a lot of input from the community on different things.
Yeah.
And we wanted to build the property next door to put the bus parking lot in. We got a lot of community support on that. When we sold it to the developers, we got a lot of support on that.
I'll say we're doing a much better job with our last few construction projects, getting the user input, the people who are going to be in those classrooms, talking to them about what their actual needs are, and what they're hoping to see and do in those spaces. That feedback, and then being able to share exactly what they're envisioning for that space is super helpful, and making sure that we're nailing it. We've learned a lot.
Anyone want to share any additional, any final thoughts on an area or something in particular that you would prioritize for future facility investments that we haven't already discussed?
I don't know if we've covered it yet, but sometimes just like in some of it sounds weird, but like when I'm walking in the hallway, it's only in like new parts of the building where the corners are like blind corners almost. You can't see who's coming around the corner until you get around the corner, and I'm already bumping into them because it's like a full 90-degree angle. But in the parts of school that are older, it's like it's at an angle or something, so I can see who's coming around the corner beforehand. It's like a user thing where it's like, oh, it's like annoying bumping into people, but also a safety thing, because if there's somebody who's in here and we're not supposed to be in here, the parapros or security people can't see who's in here until they come all the way around the corner to see who's there.
So we need a mirror.
Yeah.
However, the hallway, just the shaping of the architecture, literally.
Well, you're talking about that side of the building?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is more rounded over here because it's like a.
No, it's crazy. I mean, because I do it too. It's just this natural, like those corners are.
See, and not all improvements have to be millions of dollars. We can get it. In some of those instances, we might very well be able to find a mirror and put it in there and help with that.
I mean, not always,
Otherwise,
but
it's something,
you know what I mean.
but it's also, but it's something that we can be thoughtful about too. If we're, creating new corridors or we're doing any type of renovation to those spaces, that we're thinking about that experiential piece. So I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, just traffic flow in general. I mean, after the 2005 renovation over on the north end of the building, then you had all these we had 4 different hallways that are all meeting there in the front of the building, and it creates a massive backup there with the ROTC construction, PSC, natatorium, CTE stuff. You have literally one hallway for everybody to go through to navigate to that end of the building, and it's rough. And so this building is growing, it's expanding, and you have, there are some procedural things maybe we can look at, like Blake mentioned, with an extra minute to the passing period. But I would also looked at anyway, what can be done to, is there a way to, I mean, it's not a glamorous project, but add a hallway over on the back side of where the music rooms are at, or something, I don't know, but some way to alleviate the traffic flow that is a very practical thing, just getting kids from one end of the building to the other. Because I think we're going to also see that with that music renovation and shutting down that hallway is going to be,
That's going to be challenging.
That's going to be a challenge to the point where, like at least, my own, I mean, a little off topic, but my own opinion is you might need to create some temporary hallways even going outside. Because there's just not a chance. And if I'm coming from this study hall, I would have to literally walk all the way around the side of the building to get over to, I mean, it'd take 8-9 minutes, and I wouldn't even have to stop.
Who's in charge of logistics around here?
All right, we have about 10-15 minutes left. I have like 2 final slides that I just want to show you those next steps. I want to save 5 minutes for that. But the last question, I already started taking some notes because I think we had some of these things come up, but I wanted to ask it specifically in case it triggered anything. The last question that you have on your page is, what critical questions about district facilities or about this planning process should be examined as a part of the process? So I already kind of started taking some notes, exploring where is that demand, for programming, and how can we be strategic about the investments we're making to focus on those areas of demand. Are there any remaining items from previous efforts that, for whatever reason, didn't get addressed, didn't get completed? Is that something that can still be circled back to and finalized? We can really put a ribbon about that. Are there other items, critical questions that we should be asking as facilitators of this process, or that you would anticipate, the district exploring as a part of this process that you would want to share?
Was there going to be anything like with the bathrooms that are already been here, like even in some of our schools that have been like renovated, I guess? Is there anything we've done in the bathrooms that are existing for students right now? Because I mean, a lot of some of them it's like the faucet's broken, and some of them are one thing they're working away and like soap my hands for somebody else to finish washing their hands so I can do it. And it's like it's just so that the bathrooms, if there's any sort of planning for that for the existing ones.
Yes, and that is something we actually, before you got into today, the group talked about the existing restrooms and looking at making improvements to those, and that's something that we've heard from the administrators at both the buildings, we've heard it from the faculty and staff groups, so that's certainly on our radar as a part of this process is how do we go through to those, it's not just about creating new restrooms, but it's about renovating, and the facilities team said it as well, because they're very aware that they're constantly having to try and repair those fixtures and get things working again, and some of them, just continue to be a nuisance, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, about the bathroom thing, I don't think that the solution to this problem is to create more bathrooms, but 90% of the time when I need to go to the bathroom, I notice that there are like double the amount of women's bathrooms than men's bathrooms. I have to figure out halfway across the school just find one men's bathroom. There's like 3 total in this building. I feel like there needs to be a few more of that, because just in this hallway here, each one of these corners has a bathroom for a women's bathroom, and there's one corner that has a men's bathroom. And you have to travel all the way across the school to find one.
Do we know the actual numbers on that?
And actually,
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
Because logistically it makes sense though, in the sense that you can.
There's always a need for more women.
Yeah, there is. There like, just being honest, right? Like the way everything works, it's just I mean, you can get a lot more urinals in a bathroom than you can stalls, like.
Yeah.
And so, and also generally speaking, my experience at concerts is that the men's room is a much quicker flow than the women's room, right? Like, it's just the way it is, right? So it makes sense to have. Yeah, but I do think that, like, and we're really focusing on bathrooms, that's fair, because we spend a lot of time in the bathrooms a day, and it makes sense. But just literally, like, walking out the steps from, like, classrooms, say, how long is it realistically to get to this bathroom? Because there are times when, like, even for teachers, right? Like, if say, you know, you're 7 months pregnant, and you've got to go to the bathroom, which is a thing that happens, and you are a teacher and you're here, you have to walk 4 minutes to get, or, you know, to get through a crowd of kids to go to the bathroom, like, how is that? And I don't know if that's the end. That's the type of thing I'd be thinking about when I'm looking at bathrooms. Like, how quickly can I get there? Can I go? And can I get back to my classroom? Because, again, 5 minutes for a pass period is just not, it's not enough, right? And so just how do you cut down on those types of things and make it as efficient as possible without creating loitering spaces? Because you got bad kids like me and Larry that would hang out there. Yeah.
Because that's the other side of it, is there are some bathrooms, but there's supervision issues. Like the closest bathrooms to me are down in front of the ROTC, down on the ROTC wing, and I haven't seen much supervision down there, and so those bathrooms can sometimes be locked, and that there's all kinds of other issues with some of that.
Yeah, like the bathroom I mentioned, like earlier, there's only like 1 or 2 up here in this corner. 90% of the time when I go, because there's like the little private bathrooms, like one per person or whatever, but the only like big, like men's public bathroom up here is the one over by the English hallway. And that one is locked like 90% of the time because there's just never a parapro up there. So you got to travel all the way down to the north cafeteria area to actually use the restroom.
But then, to a point that Nick had talked about earlier, you know, he was like, well, yeah, there may be some more girls than men's. Amongst, I think I find among a lot of students that the perception that there's not enough, or the perception that, well, I'm never going to go here because it's always locked, and so I'm going to find somewhere on the other side of the school, tends to trump the reality that there may be some better ways to do this. But especially if, I mean, we all do it. It's kind of weird to talk about a lot, but there's certain bathrooms I like because they're always cleaner, and they smell better, and they, you know, and so, you know, there might be some of that too if those bathrooms are up to date. And I think you find this with anything. You have a nice space that looks good. It's comfortable. It's welcoming. You tend to feel a lot more comfortable there, and that goes both for classroom spaces and I think our restroom spaces as well.
Yeah, and I'm an aide for the graphic design class, and some of the kids, they ask me to go to the bathroom, I'm like, ooh. If they do want to go, because it's going to be maybe 4 minutes for them to get there and find a bathroom, then it takes 5 minutes to use the bathroom, and 4 minutes to walk back, they're losing, 13 minutes of instructional time just by using the restroom. And it's not their fault they had to go to the bathroom, but they're still losing that time, and that's a lot of time in class for them to also be out.
So what, half the building be bathrooms? That's where we're at.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, or whole bathroom.
Or nicer bathrooms.
Oh, yeah.
I can't hear.
What?
They're saying the faucets are broke and they need to be fixed. I cannot believe that. In this beautiful facility, they should have wonderful bathrooms.
I think to be fair, it's in some of the older sections
Yeah,
that you find that a lot
But
more.
that should be addressed.
Yeah.
That should have been addressed. I mean, you got a beautiful facility and we're talking about bathrooms being in disrepair. That's crazy.
I think the facilities guys, they are constantly battling some of the old stuff. They're fixing things, and then, you know, a couple days later, faucet won't work again, and they're back at it again.
And I will add,
It's not from a lack of trying, I'll tell you.
one of the
They're trying to
other
keep it up.
considerations, and we ran into this when we were working on this issue here, is that restrooms are an interesting thing, especially older ones, because if we touch them, if we remove a fixture off the wall, we are required by code to bring that entire restroom up to current codes from an accessibility standpoint, as well as plumbing code. And so a lot of times, that is a reason why restrooms, and I see this in all of it, I work in, you know, as a company, we work in over 40 districts in the state of Illinois, and this is a common thing that sometimes it's okay, if we have to do that, we might lose space somewhere else, because to bring it up to current accessibility standards
typically those restrooms have to get larger to still meet the required plumbing counts that are required by the state. So from a why standpoint of why that sometimes gets pushed a little bit down the road is because it's not as simple as just, oh, we just need to go in and just, fix the plumbing and get a new fixture on the wall and freshen it. It's, once we touch it, once we remove the fixture off the wall, we are required by code to bring the entire space.
So you repair it all you want, but you can't replace it.
Exactly.
Absurd.
Exactly. And so that's why then that's something that does fit into this.
Talk to your legislator. That's the type of stuff yeah,
So our disabled students shouldn't have access?
How did that come into the conversation?
That's what ADA is.
Yeah.
I know what ADA is.
But we need our
If we're-
washrooms to
If
be,
we're replacing a toilet, we have to do the whole thing?
well, isn't that common in housing when you have to come up to building codes?
No.
You don't have to, if you put in a new appliance, don't you have to bring the electric up to par?
New appliance? No.
Yeah, like a dishwasher?
No.
And you're adding on the tube, don't you have to bring it up?
Oh.
I know I just had my furnace replaced, that was a part of it. Do it now, I have to go up to the new refrigerant codes.
Do you have an electric furnace?
Mine is, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Biden said they don't no more gas, they want everything electric.
everything guidance, you can still have gas. And haven't had gas.
But you know, we do have to think about our disabled students.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you have to be thoughtful of it, right?
Yes,
But
absolutely.
at the same time, I do understand where you push off some that you can't, you don't have, because like, if you don't have space, you don't have space, right? Like, you don't want to come in the classroom space with me, I don't.
This area worked because we were already kind of destroying and not destroying, we were all doing such an extensive renovation here that those walls were coming down, and it actually was to our advantage to redo that because we could make it a better shape, and then we could make these spaces a better shape. So again, it goes back to that comprehensive of maybe that's the time to do it, whereas if you just go in and do it, now you're running into, okay, now we're having to like notch out of the space, stealing space from a classroom type of thing. Those are all considerations. Any other critical questions or areas of exploration that you want to leave me with that I can be sure
Well,
I
I
just wait?
think we should be, we're kind of blessed with this facility, school, because I've seen other schools that wish they had our problems. They don't have a swimming pool, they don't have a nice field, things like that. They might have plenty of washrooms, I don't know, but there are some schools in central and southern Illinois that would love to have a facility like this. And we did get a little, when we had the power plant, we had no problems. Now we do. We have more reality check here than when we had a power plant. We had money they didn't know what to do with, this seemed like. No?
We fought like hell every year for that money.
Well, this is true. The lawyers got rich too in the process. I read those. They wanted to make a turbine a part, not a part, oh yeah.
Personal property. They wanted
Yeah.
to rather than that, yeah.
Yeah, lawyers got rich on the argument.
So the meeting you're gonna have over at Zion Dep East could be basically the same thing?
Yes.
Yeah, February, when you have a plan, or like an idea, right?
So later this,
Yeah.
so this Thursday.
Yeah, but
Yes, and then
February, you guys will
February,
have an
yes.
actual more concrete.
The objective was that if there's folks that are, more invested, whether they're parents or something in one facility or the other, it's a way to focus on that particular facility.
We need to bring more people into these meetings, so you need to get right about 5 or 6 of our own people in.
Bring some friends, tell your friends, tell them at the grocery store.
Apathy, man, apathy is the biggest problem we have.
Yep.
We shared this meeting 7 different ways.
Joy just
We got
got
it
out
out
there,
there.
the information.
We got it out there. Maybe word of mouth.
So, to your point, we're up here in phase 1. What you were just saying, though, as we get into the new year, we'll get into that phase 2, we'll start actually thinking, we're going to go into that option development, prioritizing our needs, coming to consensus, creating those options. In February, beginning of February, the 34th. It's a Monday and a Tuesday, we'll have a second round of these community meetings. So at that point, we'll have collected all of those needs and we'll be in the middle of that phase 2. And so we'll come back and share what we've found so far and have another opportunity to get some feedback and input from the community as well. And then Sherry's just mentioning, there's a lot of ways to stay connected with us in the process. And also just if you do run into folks and you want to encourage them to look into what's going on, information about the town halls were shared in all of these different ways. There will continue to be updates that are going to be shared at board meetings and through a number of these meetings as well as we go through the process. So keep an eye on these. And then the final thing that isn't on here, but I think I mentioned at the beginning, is that we will also be sending out an electronic survey. We'll make that available for folks, so if you want to go in and share additional thoughts, something maybe that we didn't cover today or something that comes to you later on, just again, stay connected with us. We want to make sure that we're hearing all of these voices and incorporating into the work we're doing. So with that, I want to thank you all very much for joining us today. Yes, sir.
One question, totally off the subject.
Let's do it.
I see the translation up there. Is that through your microphone?
I believe so. No,
No.
so it's through PowerPoint.
Through what?
Through PowerPoint. So PowerPoint has a subtitle.
It's doing it through the laptop?
No,
right there?
it's actually recording us too, or like capturing us just speaking. So it'll translate into any language.
But it'll pick up anything anybody's saying?
Yeah, so it's picking up what you're saying too.
So if I said police Navidad, that's gonna come up there.
Well, yes, but it's
No,
capturing,
it's not.
it's programmed right now for capturing English and translating into Spanish.
Merry Christmas.
That's what what's wrong with me?
That's what we're a team.
It's magic.
Your tax dollars pay for that.
I had 2 years of
Very
Spanish.
interesting.
The only reason I passed, I sat next to see that one also.
Did you ever see that at the board meetings? We did it too.
I didn't notice it, I guess.
Yeah.
The newsletter.
We haven't done it since we moved to the new space, but we're in the south cafeteria. We had the TV set up with
I didn't
translating.
notice it before, I guess.
Sure.
Well, I guess the newsletter, is that for parents of students?
It comes out through the parents, but I also post it on the website.
ZB
So-
website?
Yep, on our ZB website. It's always in the announcements. It comes out the third Friday of every month. And so if you go to the announcements, you go to this 5-minute district.
So we have an improved website.
What was that? We do have a new,
It's improved.
it's getting there.
Better.
It's getting polished up, but
yes.
yeah. Yeah.
We do have, if anyone wants to share, I think some people did sign in on our sheets. If you share a email address with us, we can email you direct the link to that survey as it goes out. Otherwise, then you'll have to kind of track it down. So if you want us to do that, please just put your name and your email address on this sign in. If anyone else wants to do that, then we can be glad to share it with you directly.
And those newsletters, the postings, the social media postings, if you follow us on any of our social media platforms, all that stuff's getting posted there too. So all the newsletters will get posted there too.
I got it, all of this from Lincoln. I didn't see anything on Facebook. Not that I,
It's all, yeah, so it's
Facebook
Instagram,
from then to-
Facebook, LinkedIn.
Okay.
We just created a TikTok account. Watch out, world.
Okay, 2024.
yes, that's our age, yes.
It is posted everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't,
And
I
all
mean,
Larry said apathy. And
Yeah,
that's
that's-
the problem is everybody wants to complain about, the taxes, and they go up to City Hall and they scream at the mayor and the officials up there, and they won't come to a school board meeting. It just floors me.
We do have more cookies and chips. Please take something on
As a
the way
matter of
out.
fact, they're voting on the tax levy tonight, we have to go over there and scream.
It's really nice to wait.
I thought you'd be coming.
Nah, I gotta go home.
Yeah, City Hall tax levy.